On a ridge in the Ethiopian highlands, there is a wall of concrete, taller than a 60-story building. Behind it sits a reservoir holding enough water to drown a small country, and the river it captures is the only thing standing between 250 million people and the desert. From now on, whether they drink is decided by strangers turning a wheel those people will never see. First, the river, the Nile, is the longest river on Earth, roughly 6,700 kilometers. And for 5,000 years, it has been the spine of human civilization. Egypt has no rain. It has the Nile. 97% of everything Egyptians drink, grow, and wash with comes from this single ribbon of water. But here is the trap. Egypt sits at the mouth of the river, the very bottom. 85% of the water that reaches it is born somewhere else. Up in the Ethiopian highlands, in the rains that feed the Blue Nile, Egypt's entire survival falls as rain in another nation's mountains. Now, the wall. In 2011, Ethiopia began building the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the largest hydroelectric project in the history of Africa. Nearly 2 kilometers wide, 145 meters tall, and a reservoir designed to hold 74 billion cubic meters of water, more than the entire annual flow of the Blue Nile. Ethiopia's case is simple and not unreasonable. It is one of the poorest nations on earth. Tens of millions of its people live without electricity. The dam will more than double the country's power supply to Addis Ababa. This concrete is not a weapon. It is a way out of the dark. But downstream, the same concrete reads as a death sentence, because whoever controls when that reservoir fills and how fast controls how much water reaches Sudan and Egypt. For the first time in history, the Nile has an off switch and it sits in someone else's country. Consider the arithmetic of fear. Egypt's population is over 100 million and climbing fast. Add Sudan, and the people whose survival flows through this single river approach 250 million. Egypt has called any threat to its water an existential matter, and has said in plain language that it is prepared to go to war. The danger is not only drought, it is leverage. In a dry year, if Ethiopia chooses to keep filling the reservoir, instead of releasing water, it can deepen a downstream shortage at will. And there is a darker scenario. A dam this size in a seismically active region holds back a wall of water that, if it ever failed, could send a flood tearing through Sudanese cities in a matter of hours. Sudan is caught in the middle. It could gain steadier flow, cheap Ethiopian power, fewer seasonal floods, or it could lose everything in a single unannounced release. It was never warned about. Khartoum's position shifts with every change of government, and Sudan has had several. For more than a decade, the three states have negotiated and failed. The core dispute is brutally simple. Egypt wants a binding rule book, guaranteed minimum flows, guaranteed warnings, enforceable in dry years. Ethiopia refuses to sign away its sovereign right to control its own river on its own land. Round after round collapsed. African Union mediation stalled. American and Gulf brokering. Rejected. And while the talks dragged, Ethiopia simply kept building, kept filling, and one by one turned on its turbines, presenting the world with a finished fact. By the time anyone agreed on the rules, there was nothing left to negotiate but the past. 3 outcomes now sit in tension. 1, a managed peace. The dam becomes a shared engine, selling power across borders and binding 3 economies together. 2, a frozen standoff. No treaty, no war, just a permanent loaded gun that everyone learns to live beside. And 3, the scenario the entire region dreads: a severe multi-year drought, a hardline government in Cairo, a refusal to release water in Addis Ababa, and the first war in modern history, fought not over oil, not over land, but over the water itself. A strike on a dam, holding back an inland sea. The Grand Renaissance Dam is not just a power plant, it is a redrawing of who controls the oldest river on earth. For 5,000 years, the Nile flowed downhill to whoever needed it. Now it flows only when one country decides to let it. That was the Nile, briefly. Subscribe to World Briefly for more focused explainers on the next regional story that matters. Yes, in final line, no cadence promise.